guys! Today we are going to be talking about a major brat. A big one, Draco Malfoy. And what if his parents died in the First Wizarding War? Would he still be that brat we know today? Nature versus nurture, everyone. If Draco's parents died in the First Wizarding War, I believe, just like with Tom Riddle, and then later on with Harry Potter, Dumbledore would have been very involved in the new placement of Draco and where he would end up for the rest of his life. Now, Draco didn't really have much of a family out in the world because most of the blacks were in Azkaban, Sirius, and Bellatrix, but he did have another aunt and uncle out there, the Tonks family. So I'm thinking that would be one of the options. Also, Severus Snape had huge ties with the Malfoy family and with Dumbledore, so maybe Dumbledore would have sent him there. Or Dumbledore just liked the Weasleys. They would have been happy to take him in. Their family was big already.
I mean, the Weasleys can only expand. That is a Harry Potter fact.
But I believe Dumbledore would want to keep him within his family circle. But now on the good side of it, and not with Death Eater parents and ties to Voldemort. So he would most likely, at least in my opinion, end up with Nymphadora Tonks and her parents. Now Draco is going to be living with the Tonkses for the next 11 years. Because of this, do we think he's going to end up being a completely different person? A similar person? Or like a mixture of both? Or just a bigger brat? Or do we think that's going to happen later on? Was it his father that made him who he is? Or if we're going to boil it down just to this point, this is before he goes to Hogwarts, just within these 11 years of living with the Tonkses, do we think he's going to end up who he is? Because he is related to Death Eaters?
I think not. I think most of Draco's negativity came from Lucius, in which case if you remove Lucius from the equation, at least with Narcissa, sure, he might have ended up being a spoiled brat, but I don't think he would have been too much of a pompous brat that we know him and love him for.
Exactly. I think most of it came from, yes, he was raised to be a pure blood supremacist and a Muggle-born hater. But he was also an only child who was raised to be like this perfect spawn that will someday take over and help Voldemort destroy the world. But if he's with the Tonkses, one, he will have an older sister, Nymphadora Tonks, who ends up joining the Order of the Phoenix, and is that type of person. So she will rub off on him, just like Draco's father rubbed off on him. But he will also be able to think for himself in that family. So there may be a tiny bit of him in there, which is genetically Death Eater, but it'll also be based off of this other family who was partially related to the Blacks, which are mostly all Death Eaters, and not a hateful, crappy family.
He'll definitely inherit Lucius's ambitions, ambitious sides, and stuff like that, but I think he'd definitely become a different person.
Now, after living with them for 11 years and turning into this different person we think he's going to be, he is then going to go off to Hogwarts. And there, we see him for the first time in the books at Madame Malcolm's robe shop when he's getting fitted for his school uniform. And that's the first place Harry meets him. Now, if everything still plays out the same way, even though he has a different family, he will meet Harry at the robe shop. And this is before he knows who Harry is. This all happens in the book. The movie meeting is completely different and completely just... it doesn't make any sense. But this is before he knows who Harry is. And they actually create a good bond because this is the first student Harry truly meets. The only other magical person he's met, as far as he knows, is Hagrid, who is this big, he's friendly giant, but also this big scary giant that came out of nowhere. So they get along, and maybe something will come up about how he is Harry Potter, and how they, or maybe just that they're both orphans and they bond over that. They don't see each other again until the train. And if everything plays out the way it does, maybe this would lead to more of a friendship, less of a friendship? What do you think? Do you think he's gonna go in like the cabin with Harry and Ron and kind of just fit right in? Or do you think that's not gonna happen, or he'll be more of a Luna type character that's like, hey, and then they're like, hey, what are you doing here? And that she'll just keep popping up here and there.
If everything hits off well in your scenario, at Diagon Alley, I think Draco would be in the same seat as Harry and Ron, and then eventually Hermione, of course, will pop up, as she normally does.
Yeah, true. Do you think that friendship's going to last?
I think it would. I mean, again, Draco and Harry have the same amount of ambitions. In this scenario, since Draco is also an orphan, as he'll still have the last name Malfoy, it wouldn't be changed to Draco Tonks.
So would that, you think, scare them away from him? Because Ron probably knows who the Malfoys are and their involvement in everything. And Ron is a very closed off person. He was very, ooh, house elves have to be slaves. Ooh, this person is this. He was very closed-minded. Do you think he's going to be like, oh, Malfoy, no? Or do you think he'd easily fit right in?
Well, I think if Draco tells him firsthand, I live with the Tonks family, I have no idea who my actual family were first, before he's like, all I know is my last name is Malfoy. In which case, I think Ron would slightly have a click in his head, but he's like, well, Ron would be like, well, from what my dad has told me, his parents are dead. He seems to be well stable, and Harry clearly he and Harry are getting along nicely. I think I won't say anything to him about his parentage.
Alright, once at Hogwarts, do we think Draco is still going to be a Slytherin? Does the Sorting Hat really go deep down inside and see these things that are a part of you no matter what happens? Or do you think he'd be somewhere else? He is, from what we get in the book, not in the movie, one of the smartest characters in there. If Hermione wasn't there, he would have been the smartest one in his grade. So, but he is also the one that creates all the scenarios between him and Crabbe and Goyle. And he is kind of Fred and George, like a lot of people say.
Well, Sorting Hat would find the leadership and also the ambitious side of a Slytherin. The Sorting Hat would look at Draco's intelligence and take that into account, saying that he can develop the leadership skill later down the line. I think he would put Draco into
Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. There's a strong chance of him maybe being a Gryffindor, because Slytherin and Gryffindor are very similar when you look at it. But I think he is more intelligent than anything else, and that just gets taken away because Hermione is such a main character. But with Draco not being who he is, do we think Hermione would have been as involved? Or do you think because he is now friends with Harry and Ron, even though he's a Ravenclaw, he would have kind of taken her place, and she would be less in the trio and more of a Luna-sized character? Or do we think she would have been just as involved?
I think she would have been just as involved. I mean, sure, both Draco and Hermione have intelligence, but the fact that Hermione is a Gryffindor and obviously when it comes to their adventures, it's always going to be those three Gryffindors.
True, but they see the other houses just as much. They had most of their classes with Draco. Yeah,
Draco could come along and give insight, maybe hang out, do some hijinks that preteen boys will always do.
I personally think she wouldn't have been as involved. She'd still be there, but I think with Draco being there, and if he became close with them, there would be the three of them, and the only reason she came in was because of events that happened later on. Truly, they were making fun of her the entire time. And if there were three of them already, they probably wouldn't have realized what they were doing. And Draco was very Fred and George-like. He probably would have made it even worse, even though he grew up with the Tonks. And eventually, they would get to know her and all that, but I think it would take a lot longer. Draco now being friends with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, there still has to be some foil that's not the big Voldemort for the story to work. I believe, even with Draco being good, that we would get Crabbe or Goyle as more of a leader, because besides Lucius Malfoy, the only other couple people that got out of going to Azkaban, they talked their way out of it, was the Death Eaters that were Crabbe and Goyle's parents. Meaning they would probably be the new Draco. But as we saw in the movies, in the books, Crabbe and Goyle aren't particularly...
bright center.
Yeah, without Draco leading them, would they have gotten as far? Or would they have gotten the job done and not done what happened to Draco? Which was, as the movies went on, he had the intelligence that he had, and it led to him thinking things through to the point of anxiety and depression, and should I really be a Death Eater? Draco is now a Ravenclaw. He's friends with Harry and Ron and somewhat Hermione, I say. Things are going as all the movies go. We're in the second movie. The diary isn't given to Ginny. It's most likely a family heirloom that Draco has. And the whole second movie happens with Draco and the diary. Or there happens with Ginny again because somehow Crabbe and Goyle's parents get it and give it to Ginny. Yada yada. We've now moved on a couple movies. Things are going great. Draco's friends with everyone. He is a better person. He is getting good grades. He's the Ravenclaw Seeker. The books also say he is just as good a Seeker as Harry.
Yes.
So, his life is going well, but Crabbe and Goyle are being complete idiots the whole time. Snape is probably terribly mad at them, and we get to the point where...
He's rom-com with them.
Snape is terribly mad at them.
Yes.
So, we are at the point where Draco became a Death Eater, but none of that is happening because he is good. So, this would mean either Crabbe or Goyle's parents, their father most likely, would be, depending on which one becomes the new Draco, would be Voldemort's right-hand man, eventually turn right-hand slave. Sad to say.
In which case, the way I see it is that everything, as Taylor said, everything at that point progresses. It's until Order of the Phoenix where things get interesting. As we see as seen in the movies in my perspective, but as people read in the book, Bellatrix Lestrange gets out, and we know that Bellatrix was Narcissa's sister. In which case, if everything with Draco progresses, so obviously they will know about Voldemort's return. Harry would help form Dumbledore's army.
Have we made it to the point of Dumbledore's death yet?
No, this is...
I have stuff on that.
This is 5.
Okay, this is 5, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little too ahead of myself. I know this stuff.
In Order of the Phoenix, Draco would join in Dumbledore's army, helping gain more powers in defense against the dark arts. In which case, he would most likely join Harry and the others at the Battle Department of Mysteries. And one of the things that he would encounter would be Bellatrix Lestrange, who would be in shock to learn that Draco is with Harry's fight against Voldemort. In which case, it would be through Bellatrix that Draco would learn about his true family heritage, that his parents were Death Eaters who fought for Lord Voldemort. This would cause a great divide in him, almost in the same way that Luke finding out that Vader's his father.
I think that would cause a huge divide in him. As we saw later in the movies, he has huge anxiety because of how smart he is. And it becomes very, very tough on him and creates depression. And at the same time that this is going on, Tonks, or Nymphadora, has met Lupin, and she was in love with him so much, and he didn't respond, that it gave her depression. So I think they would kind of have this weird, sad to say, depression.
There would be a great depression bond.
And they would kind of be getting really close and all that, and it would make him a stronger person than I think he ends up being in the actual movies.
Yes.
Now, with all that going on with new Draco, we have stupid Crabbe and Goyle, and Voldemort is now known to the world. We get to the 6th movie book, where we're supposed to kill Dumbledore. Snape has to take care of Draco, but now it's Crabbe and Goyle. And because they are so stupidly, maybe even stupidly smart now, I don't think it's going to end up the same way.
No.
I don't think we're going to be waiting for anything to happen.
Now, with the whole Crabbe and Goyle scenario, do we think it'd be Crabbe or Goyle? Goyle would try to kill Dumbledore in the most just uninspiring ways. Maybe he'd try to set some sort of trap for Dumbledore, but obviously with Draco's traps, which were elaborate, Dumbledore, or in some shape or form, those traps fail.
He would try, but I think he would fail. And I think the other one would probably just be like, Oh, Dumbledore's coming down the hallway.
That would be Goyle. Goyle would try to say, I'm just gonna end this right and for all and just snipe the old guy in a hallway. In which case,
Dumbledore would have died a lot sooner, I think, because they're so stupidly smart.
However, here's the thing. I think, as Hermione said, a great wizard like Dumbledore is not going to be taken out by some sort of dim-witted plan.
But he knew it was coming.
He knew it was coming.
So he would have probably just let it happen and get it over with.
He would let Severus Snape do it because, remember...
True, he wanted Severus Snape to do it.
Yeah.
So he probably would have dodged it, they all probably would have screwed up, but the whole school would have been known that they were going after him. It would have created a bigger problem, which we're not going to get into.
Yes.
So, do we think, then, if the same scenarios happened that happened with Draco, we would have gotten to the last movie where they're at Malfoy Manor, and Draco doesn't give Harry, Hermione, or Ron away to Bellatrix. We think Crabbe and Goyle probably would have given Harry away, and then...
Well, for one, I think Draco Malfoy would... The new Draco Malfoy would let them use Malfoy Manor as some sort of Order of the Phoenix hideout.
Mostly, that was still his. So if we're not even
probably still his.
Yeah, that would be... But if we're not at Malfoy Manor and the same concept is happening, we're at, like, Crabbe and Goyle's house with all the
Death Eaters,
and the same concept happens, I'm pretty positive they wouldn't have been as nice as Draco, because I think deep down Draco could be a good person, and they're just not.
However, if both Crabbe and Goyle's parents are Voldemort's slaves, and we know just how vicious Voldemort can be,
I think they would have just gone along with it.
They
would have said that. Bellatrix would have tried to kill Harry there, and either there would be a bigger battle than we see, or Harry would have died then, or Ron would have died then, Hermione would have died then, and that would have been that. I think Draco being good almost kills the entire fate of the universe.
Almost, but like everything, there is another, and his name is Neville Longbottom.
So we think if Harry died there, Neville Longbottom would have saved the entire world.
That is what I'm thinking. Because as in the books, they make it clear that the prophecy could have gone to either Harry or Neville.
Yes, but Neville's parents didn't die.
His parents didn't die, but the fact is, the destiny could still have been his, and I think if you looked at it in the novels, it makes it seem that even still, Neville could still do good.
So in the end, if Draco did not live with his overbearing father, who made him who he is today, I believe he would actually be a good person. So, nature versus nurture. I think it was nurture that destroyed him, not nature. Second, if Draco was a good person, a Ravenclaw friends with Harry, Harry's life would be different, but we would also have Crabbe and Goyle being the new Draco. Because of that, a lot of things would be completely different. Everyone would know more about Voldemort. Then, they would tell about Harry when they go and see Bellatrix. Harry, Ron, or Hermione, or all three of them would end up dying. And Harry would never get a chance to be the owner of the Elder Wand because he would never disarm Draco, and all that would never happen. So, they would probably end up dying. In the end, because of Draco's parents dying, apparently Neville would save us all.
And also, another fun fact, Dobby would never be free.
No, Dobby would get thrown off to another family. And he may never be free, he may have a worse life, or he may even have a better life.
But still, he would be a slave, and slavery is not fun. Also, intelligence is slightly not fun, believe me.
No, but Draco, for the story to go the way it is, and for Harry to be the winner, Draco needs to be evil to save the rest of the world.
He has to start off as evil.
Yes, I believe in the end, Draco becomes a good person, and a better father than his father ever was. But we can talk about that in the future!